And from my end, I say good afternoon to you once again. It's still Nigeria Info. That's 92.3 Nigeria Info here in the Garden City of Port Harcourt. But it's time for our program, Talking Figures. So long as it concerns money, so long as it concerns figures, you get it here on Talking Figures. Now, for today, it's a no-brainer. The focus today is going to be on the issue of the recent announcement on the official increase in fuel price. That's going to be the focus today. The question we are going to be asking you is a simple one, and basically, how is it affecting you? Could it be any worse? Could it get any worse? The fuel price increase, how does it affect you? Could it be any worse? And we are hoped to be joined on today's edition of the show by the Pengassin Zonal Chairman, Port Harcourt Zone. That's Comrade Sir George Nwoko. He will be joining us via telephone for this one. We're looking to ask you here, how are you coping with the fuel price increase? Yes, it was officially announced yesterday, but there were hints of this. And for most Nigerians, we have been buying fuel for over, 591 naira, or even perhaps if some people have bought fuel for over 800 naira plus. How are you coping with it? Can it get any worse? You can go to our social media pages. Facebook is www.facebook.com/NigeriaInfoPH. You will see a post up there. You drop your comment while we hope to hook up with our guest for today, Comrade Sir George Nwoko. He's the Pengassin Zonal Chairman, Port Harcourt Zone. We're looking to understand the fuel price increase. Yes, that's what we're trying to do today. With our guests. Let's get it rolling today. Now, yesterday, there was news concerning an increase in fuel price. Now, some would say the news was just basically on its own because most Nigerians were buying fuel at a very high rate. And the result of that is, of course, an exorbitant cost in transportation. Transportation has been quite expensive. Now, that's announcement we got yesterday, or should I say that leak we got yesterday, we already had talks concerning this some days or some weeks ago. Plenty of people talked concerning it, and there was a denial by the NNPCL that there was no such thing in the offing. But we now got news, or we now got wind, that huge financial obligations, huge debt obligations by the NNPCL running into about $6.8 billion will be a reason why fuel will not be readily available. There was that agreement that everyone could go into the importation of fuel, everybody basically going to the market. But for the past few months, the NNPCL similarly had become the sole importer of fuel in this country. Similarly, they had the access, of course, to the dollar, which had become a problem also for other importers. But $6.8 billion debt obligation. What does this mean? Does this actually mean there's been some subsidy on fuel? Well, officially, no one will agree there's been fuel subsidy. How come you're not able to meet, of course, those obligations? Now, that's what, of course, we were trying to get, understanding the fuel price increment. There was a plan we heard previously for NNPCL or the federal government to go into an operation and maintenance concession with private investors at Warri and Kaduna refineries. Yes, this was supposed to see private investors go into those refineries, make them workable so that we could at least get fuel from those refineries. While we wait also for the Port Harcourt refinery to come online and, of course, start giving us products. But seemingly, all this has not happened. What's the true landing cost of fuel, and how much and how reasonable will it be to continue selling fuel at maybe 800 and something naira or 500 and something naira? What's the true landing cost of fuel? This we're hoping to get, of course, into with our guest, Sir George Mwoko of Pengerson. Now, before he joins us, let me throw the question out there to you. How are you coping so far? The streets were empty, or at least not as busy as they usually were earlier today. How has this increased? How is it affecting you? Do you think it could get any worse? 190 something naira for fuel at one point in time. All of a sudden, it went up from 500, 600. How do you think it could get any worse? Join us here on Talking Figures. Give us a buzz. Call us on 070-0923-0923 at 070-0923-0923. You could drop a comment for us, of course, via Facebook. The Facebook page is www.facebook.com/NigeriaInfoPH, www.facebook.com/NigeriaInfoPH. And for WhatsApp, you could drop a message for us via WhatsApp 0809-030-6416. That's 0809-030-6416. Already see some messages coming in. This one from Ogu Ojone Justice says, why has it become the duty of the federal government to fix prices for Dangote refinery fuel? Isn't it a bid for NNPCL to continue with their monopoly and all marketers are quiet? That's Ogu Ojone Justice. We definitely will get to the issue of Dangote refinery. Let's take this call here. We've got a call online. I just quickly trying to be screened, but I'll take that one. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome. It's Talking Figures on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Who do we have on the line?
Okay. The issue of the fuel, is getting under...
Sorry, could you speak up a little bit? We can barely hear you.
It's getting to another dimension.
Okay.
I think government are only trying to deceive us. They're not doing the right thing. If they're doing the right thing, what is so difficult in preparing all the refineries and giving us fuel? The problem we have today is that fuel. And if fuel is available, everything will normalize. Please, the government here and help us. They're not doing the right thing at all.
How has it affected your own movement for you personally?
Well, I think I have just decided to be staying in my house. I don't travel anymore. I just stay around.
Okay, thank you very much. He says he basically stays home, doesn't travel anymore. We want to get your thoughts and want to hear how, of course, the increase in petrol price is affecting you. We want to hear from you. Tell us, call us 070-0923 0923 at 070-0923 or you can also try the alternate number and at 0817 923 0002 0817 923 0002. Got some messages here from Facebook, and this particular one here says from Okowa Charles says, I bought full tank 3 days ago only to hear an increase in pump price. Scared of moving around? It can get worse if the masses take it like nothing happened. Yes, that's another accusation. Nigerians have been accused of adjusting to the situations rather than reacting to the situation. I have Victor on the line here, and let's talk to Victor. Hello, Victor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon to you, Victor. So tell us, how are you adjusting, or are you adjusting to the new fuel price regime?
cow. You see this question you just threw at me now. You know, let me use our Nigeria info term here. I beg to differ. When I heard you say you have a simple question for us.
It's not simple, huh?
That question cannot be simple.
Why? Wait, so
our life, the question as regards the true pump price, any question as regards as we speak today cannot be seen to be a simple question. Because even the NNPC themselves, the government of the day, cannot even answer the question. And when you cannot answer a question, that question is not simple. In fact, just like people who are every true error. Because we just do not know the solution to our problem. And then today will tell us a story, the next day another story. We are just watching. If nothing to do, we can't do anything. The last time
Victor, you're actually we're losing you. No longer that clear.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello?
You said you were just watching the situation. How long were you going to watch, and what are you going to do?
We will just adjust our movement.
So that's it.
Yes.
We'll adjust to it.
This time around, I'm watching on price. Let us watch them.
Okay. Thank you very much, Victor. So that's Victor there. He says we'll adjust to it. And like I did mention, some have accused Nigerians of actually being, adjustment masters rather than reacting to the situation. So Victor says we are going to adjust to the situation. That is what we are going to do. And good luck, Michael here says the president should be held responsible for the sufferings of Nigerians because he's the petroleum minister, and he says enough is enough. That's good luck, Michael, from Facebook. I am told we now have our guest joining us. That's, of course, the Pengasin Zonal Chairman. He joins us live. Do we have him else on the phone? Okay, good. We have Comrade Sir George Mwoko, Pengasin Zonal Chairman, Port Harcourt Zone. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Nice to, of course, have you join us. Now, we are looking at understanding the fuel price increments. That's what we are looking to understand here. Now, in simple layman terms, could you just explain to me why it is we're having an increase in the price of petrol? That's just treat me as an idiot. In simple lay terms, explain to me why do we have an increase in the price of petrol?
The product has always been brought by NMPC as a sole agency power to bring in a product. So
you say always be brought in. Sorry, apologies. You say it's always been brought in. I thought at the onset of this administration, we were told all marketers could basically source for the product themselves.
NMPC still regulates how and what they bring. And then, so if we leave it at open market, I doubt if it will be at the price it is today. So there's still a little regulation. So that's what all that relates to. Last year, when the president announced it, I can tell you that the dollar exchange is about 460 thereabouts. Today is 160. Sorry. So how do you make up for the difference? So if I'm going to bring in the product, if I'm importing product at the rate of one exchange rate, it won't be the same price to sell to the consumer. Those are the dynamics. So the reason for the explained by NMPC, I have to quote NMPC, is the high cost of the product, the same product. Yeah.
Could you give us an estimation? What is that landing cost? Even if it's an estimation, what's the landing cost of fuel? So if you could give us a landing cost of fuel so that we could actually marry it with what you've just said now. If the landing cost is 5 naira, so we can understand if they say 6 naira, what's the landing cost of fuel?
Today is between 800 and 820.
Between 800 and 820. Okay, so it will make sense after perhaps all the other, this maybe at most 900 or 900 and something to sell it at that price, right?
Yes.
Now, I would like to ask a question. You're from Pengasin, and how many barrels of oil supposedly are we producing in this country? From the last I heard, we are told between 1.3 to 1.4 million barrels per day. If we are producing these barrels of oil, And I'm asking myself, though we say the refineries are not, fully functional, but Dangote, shouldn't this basically translate? I'm talking as an average Nigerian now, an ordinary man. If we are producing the raw material, 1.3 barrels, 1.4 million barrels, even if we are selling it, shouldn't it be easy for us to also buy fuel?
We produce with between 1.5 and 1.7, as you rightly said, and we have about 460 reserved for local refineries. But it is interesting to note that this percentage reserved for the local refineries have also been consumed by the amount of money we borrow with the exchange of crude oil.
Aha.
So it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up when you remove the IOCs take up their own percentage. What is left for local refineries about 460 barrels per day, and which is what is left to start to Dangote refinery as mentioned. That doesn't translate to literally having a low cost of a refined product.
So I'm told that's a major problem. The fact that even the ones we have not produced, we have already mortgaged it. Is it Afrimex? We've taken some loans for barrels of oil that we have not produced. So producing those barrels every day does not mean money at hand for us because we're actually using it to pay debt.
The information is all over. It's a known fact all over the country.
Okay, so basically we're paying existing debt. Now, talking of the refineries themselves, Port Harcourt, almost every time we hear it will soon come online. Port Harcourt, yes, we will soon start, we'll soon start getting products from Port Harcourt. For the Warri and Kaduna refineries, there was that talk that there will be an operations and maintenance concession with private investors. Why do you think that has not worked? I'm looking, maybe for instance, like the Chinese now, who have been willing to buy into Africa, come into any avenue. This would have been something that perhaps investors could have come into, that maintenance and concession into the Kaduna and Warri refineries. Why do you think this has not worked? Because from what we hear, there's been no investors coming in for this.
I speak for Port Harcourt refinery because I've been there a couple of times to see what they are doing. Port Harcourt refinery is an old lady, so it's being rehabilitated. So at this takeoff stage, there are those sitting problems. So you try to subject the plant to heat, and you notice some leakages, and you need to repair. That's the second stage they are on now. So that is for Port Harcourt refinery.
Okay.
They are almost set, but there are some minor issues they are trying to control. By next week, I will even invite you to come along with me. Let's go and look at what they are doing. I'm not holding brief for them, but from what I've seen physically and what they have been reporting, I think they are on course. So it's not as promised, but we are sure that we give us to Shanka product from there. For Warri and Kaduna refinery, over the week you've heard that NMPC is trying to concession it, as you said. Yes. They are looking for when they come, they will actually move into the next stage of the discussion.
Okay, like you said, when the investors come. Now, the border, what some people find disturbing is that we hear that they are in so bad a shape that it will be difficult to actually get investors to come in. Because normally with stuff like this, you should get people who are willing to jump in. What's the state of that Kaduna or the Warri refinery? What's the state of those refineries?
No matter how bad the state it is, there will be evaluation. They would need to evaluate it, and they also price it according to the state it is. So for me, the refineries are there. They might not be at optimum performance level, but they will be evaluated and then a cost placed on them. So it's not about the state of the refinery. It's about the investors coming, doing their own evaluation independently, and then present a figure.
Now, you definitely, I'm sure, have an automobile of some sorts you drive, and as a result, you buy fuel. Let me ask you, what is the color of the fuel you are using? Now, I'm asking this question. I don't know if you have seen some videos making the rounds and trending. Dangote refinery telling us what fuel that's, PMS and diesel should actually look like. Supposedly, it's supposed to be clear. When we are young, they're telling us that water should be clear, odorless, and all that. So we know what water should be. Anything that's outside that, that's not water. For fuel, what should fuel actually look like?
I saw the video, as you earlier said. The product we have been importing is a bit different in color from what is presented. Doesn't mean they are totally not the right product. The chemical process, the process of blending PMS, such differences in coloration can occur. And then they are also the sulfur content. The lower the sulfur content, the better, the more crystal clear the product. So,
okay, so that's
not as if what we are buying is bad.
But if for mechanical engineers, some of them have told us the reason why our vehicles have some of the problems and always in the mechanic these days is that the quality of fuel we are using is not good. Some of them insist on that.
We have the regulatory agencies that are saddled with the service of checking the quality of the product before it lands into the country. I think they have been doing their job. If they are not fit for use, they will not allow it to come into the country.
Now, let's go down to Dangote Refinery. Before we got you through on the call, we had a contributor talk about why should the federal government or the NNPCL, why should they play a part in fixing the price for products that will eventually come from the Dangote Refinery. Like I say, speak to us as laymen here who know nothing about these things. Why should they be involved in any way or in any sort in fixing the price from products that will come from the Dangote Refinery?
The sector is a regulated sector, period. So when we regulate fully, we won't fix the price. But for now, NNPC is still the one regulating the product importation and costing. So they are still the one doing that.
So if they do that, doesn't that deny, everything we've been told from the very get-go, from the onset, that it was going to be a free market? That was what we were told. And that's why NPCL was not even supposed to be federal government anymore. It was supposed to be sort of like, a private limited company or thereabouts. So doesn't this deny that policy or that talk of we having a free market?
It's still a work in progress. So those are the policy issues that we'll have. But that will be fine-tuned in a couple of... Some things are coming on stream. So you don't make a policy and they are implementing it. The policy will go in line with the reality and the current state of this. Some of the is upstream. If the other advice comes on board, we might also adjust the policy to suit the state.
Okay, now just please stay on the line a bit. We'll just take some messages and contributions from our listeners. And as we go, then we'll get back to you on the question. Now, you could still join in here on the show. Don't forget, you can watch as we stream live on Facebook, www.facebook.com/NigeriaInfoPH. That you can do. You could also call in on the show. Call the smart number 070 0923 0923. That's 070 0923 0923. You could answer the question we have on our social media page, and you could also call in and answer that question. How are you coping with the recent fuel price increment? Could it get any worse? That's the question we're asking you. Now, we have Maxit Kosex from Facebook here, and he says, there are a lot of hidden secrets going on in NNPC, which, if anyone reveals, will be declared wanted by the Nigerian presidency. And it says that the president does not have the capacity to lead Nigeria. He does not. Port Harcourt Refinery is just a game and will not see the light of day. I hope the former chief judge of the Federation has seen results of, that's what people call BG, with that contribution. Maxi Kosex, we are told also by, of course, our guest that Port Harcourt Refinery, well, yes, there's progress there. He's even said he will also get us to see as things progress there. And Godwin Agwanwo says, mismanagement and greed, simple and short. That's the problem with the fuel price increase. He says mismanagement and greed. Now that's the problem we have concerning the fuel price increase. Gospel Nyebuchi says, I beg, help us to tell the president, let him be ready for Nigerians on the 1st. We're asking Nigerians, how are you coping with the fuel price increase? Tell the president it should be ready for Nigerians on the 1st. Nule Nwankwo says, can it get any worse? How worse do you want it to be before you know it's already bad? Yes, so that's the question we're asking you. So maybe, are we already at the point where that's the final? That's the point we're asking you, Nule. Is that Nule rather? Is it at the final, or do you think it could be worse than this? When we had fuel price move from 100 and something naira to as much as 500 and something naira, Did we think it could actually get worse than that? But this is where we are, and that's why we're asking you that question. Do you think it can get any worse? Now, let me come back to our guest here. Now, due to the landing cost, you cannot sell lesser than what you have imported, right?
I do too.
So ideally. Now, so what has been happening all this while? You mentioned when you started here with us, you actually referenced when Mr. President said fuel subsidy is gone. So if the landing cost of fuel all this while is at a certain cost and they're telling us, you see, we can no longer cope with that. So let me ask you now, speak to me technically, speak to me logically. Has there been fuel subsidy?
Yes.
Okay, yes, there's been fuel subsidy. So why we now have this increase is because maybe there may no longer be fuel subsidy.
Yeah, the NPC informed us that they are actually burdened by the amount of
debt obligations, yes.
Yeah, so they cannot continue. So that's why I was agreeing to this announcement.
So for Nigerians who are complaining, now, because from what we hear from the NNPCL, then you hear quietly also from those who work there, why are Nigerians complaining that fuel is not cheap anywhere in the world? This is the reality. This is the market price. So what would you say to Nigerians? Is this the reality? Is this what it is?
The first also inform us that over there, those countries you are mentioning, the minimum wage is not 70,000.
Uh-huh.
So when they want to compare the cost of chemistry, those countries also compare the cost of minimum wage. So we are just here as labor leaders, and we've been advocating for this over the years. The refineries will propose different strategies to get it running. We have asked them to implement the LNG model. We have been on this for years. We are just getting here now. The Pentation have been on this for over 5 years, 6 years, announcing to Nigerians that we should get where we are today if the funds are not put in place. So it's not about how much is still in the neighboring country. What is the quality of life there? What is the minimum wage in those countries? We don't compare apple and orange.
Okay, we've got a caller here on the line. Yeah, hello, good afternoon.
Mr. Zion, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Zion. How are you coping?
The situation will get worse. Just the beginning.
Could it get any worse?
It will be worse than this. It will get to the point people will be trekking on the street like ants or flying like birds as long as military is there.
Now, if you say it's Melakiari, now you just also heard our guest here. It's basically, should I say, forces of supply and demand. You're buying it at so and so you cannot sell less than what you buy.
Who is the forces? I've asked this question before. Nobody has answered me. Who is the forces? I'm asking you. In your office, there are there forces that will stop you not to.
Well, it's business studies. We are told there are forces of supply and demand.
Put this on record. The petroleum industry in Nigeria is an organized crime. They have made it so legit that you cannot say anything. If you don't like it, leave it. As I'm telling you now, as we're having this discourse now, do you know what happened between the Dangote? A lot of deals they broke out with Dangote failed. That is why they told you, we are going to be the sole seller of the Dangote product. But Dangote never wanted it that way. He wanted the open market. Just come. Even you are a veteran, come. A filling station owner, come.
Well, there were some agreements. They were supposed to have a certain percentage stake in that. That's the federal government supposed to have a certain stake in Dangote refinery. Yes, he recently admitted it's not what it was intended to be. It's a bit lower. But when you also supply demand, make crude available to the man at a different rate than you would have sold outside, there should be some expectations also. Don't you agree?
So that is it, because you are now treating him as a stranger. And don't forget, this man is a businessman. You like it or not, his refinery was like a threat to their conglomerate, which they have in Malta and other places. So in their efforts to stifle him, he brought in a lot of policies that the man can no longer survive. What made this product or this station to work presently now was because of the total yearnings of Nigeria and other top fathers of the founding fathers of this country who are now seeing the pain. They try to talk to the president. Now you ask for increment of salary. I told them, don't go for increments. They say, Mr. Zion, what are you saying? I say, don't go for that. You will pay dearly for it. So they look at it.
Mr. Zion, if I'll just remind you, we were told by Labour that when they demanded for as much as 400 or thereabouts, and they were told, we can give you that, but if we give you that, there will definitely be an increase in fuel prices and, of course, all that. That was what they were told.
Labour back out from that deal?
That's why they calmed down and accepted 70,000 naira.
But that was the beginning of the problem. You shouldn't have even accepted anything at all. See, my father told me that the reason I'm educating you is so that your opponents don't usurp you. My brother told me, come and join the military so that nobody should intimidate you in this land. I said, no, sir. See, let us be honest to ourselves. As long as military is there, tougher times are with Nigeria.
Okay.
As long as Cardoso is there, get on another play. Mr. Zion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zion. Now, Comrade Nwoko, now you also, of course, I would say are part of Labour. Now, we heard that talk that the president was willing to perhaps accept the demands for a higher minimum wage, but he had already warned, if we give that to you, definitely be prepared for an increase in fuel price. But so they didn't now stick with that. They accepted the 70,000 naira minimum wage, but this has happened. What do you think Labour should say concerning this?
Labour will address it. We have not met at the federal committee level, so I can't speak for the entire Labour system. The president will address the country and the leaders on the next time.
Okay. I have Iyobu Kevin Frank here. He says, good afternoon, presenter. The APC-controlled federal government is just playing gamble with the lives of Nigerians. I'm sure the just-ended hunger protest does not explain any seriousness of the state of the nation. I believe the increment may have come on the heels of Dangote soon dispensing fuel, and I tell you, Dangote also may have been fingered into this, as he will want to sell to independent marketers to make profit, considering how much he may have bought crude from the federal government, as Kevin Frank in the diaspora. No, see, that's why we have, of course, Comrade Nwoko trying to explain, the process to us, what's basically happening. And like he's pointed out, now, you buy and you sell. Can you buy lower than you sell? The landing cost of fuel, what it is around is about 800 and something naira. So can you sell lower than that? So what does this mean? It means they've been subsidy all along? Yes, apparently so. The NNPCL has said they can no longer cope with they are being overburdened by the debt obligations, which amounts to about $6.8 billion. Comrade Nwoko, I'm going to ask you the important question now. As a Labour man yourself, let me ask you this question. Do you think it could get any worse? Because if we are following the forces of demand and supply, if this is what it is, could it get any worse than it is at the moment?
We must start refining locally. We must ensure that our refineries are working. We must ensure that the installations are protected to enable us to produce more crude according to our allocated OPEC quota. Until those are not done, we will continue to get worse. We advocate that the government should wake up to the responsibility, ensure that the fuels are protected to enable us to get more crude on the spot. So those are the issues, and we must address them. We must face them clearly.
We must face them squarely. Now, you could also still, of course, call us 070-0923-0923 at 070-0923-0923, or try the alternate number at 0817-923-0002. Also take some messages here, and this one says, Carl and Comrade. Let's get the message here. It says, concerning petrol scarcity and refineries, I've said as long as, I think is this from, this is some goodness. As long as Mayor Carey and those benefiting from petroleum products importation remain in the management of the NNPCL, the refineries cannot work. Did you hear the NNPCL is shamelessly asking that Dangote's petrol should be sold to it? The good book says old garments cannot work with new patches. Nigeria wants its refineries and petrol situation to change. These people must be changed. Carl, what are the states and FG waiting for to incorporate the Fire Lads into modular and cellular refineries production for other states and export? Now, let me quickly ask Comrade Moko concerning that. What do you make? I know we've talked about, modular and cellular refineries. What do you make concerning that? Can we actually make that work? Will it make things easier for us in this country?
We have some of the modular refineries in place working. Why the water smith, why the other bells. There are procedures to that. If you want to operate a modular refinery, you apply for the license. When it's been given, you apply within the ambit of the law. So there are processes and you must follow.
Okay, we've got Christian joining us from Bonny Island. Yeah, hello, Christian. Good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon.
You're welcome, Christian. Go ahead. Tell us, how are you coping?
The problem with NNPC is that we all know that NNPC is not a company that is known for efficiency and give you, figures and statistics.
There was supposedly a reorganization of NNPC, so perhaps it's supposed not to be what it was formerly before.
My brother.
It's not NNPC again, it's NNPCL.
Yes, I work in the petroleum industry. Yes, for more than 5 years. That was in the 90s. Listen to me carefully. The problem here is that even when NNPC brings in this product, our people are so reckless that they will go behind and begin to distribute this thing. They will begin to do it the way we do our things. They can't give account of it. That is where the problem is. I told you in the situation of when they were doing national supply, what they were doing during the time of national supply, they go into the warehouse and break the warehouse and carry most of this product illegally and sell it out. Some of them, they come with fake allocation paper. They get these goods illegally. Later, the government could not account for more than 75% of money they spent in bringing in products.
So in summary, NNPCL still being NNPC. Your summary is that NNPCL is still NNPC and that system cannot work.
As long as it's manned by Nigerians.
So are we going to import foreigners to man resources for us? This one here says, Mr. Carl, NLC are the cause of our problems. Now that they have negotiated 70,000 naira as the new minimum wage, how far? If they are eventually paid this new wage, only transport fare will consume it, then go explain tire, no evidence. We are all in this shege together. And that's Simply Goodness from Alakaya. Now, Simply Goodness, you can join us on Hard Facts later on with Constance Mega. She will have the Rivers NLC chairman, and that's Alex Agwanwo. They will be discussing because the NLC have accused the federal government of betrayal over fuel price hike. Remember, like mentioned, that the government had said, if you want 450 or 200 or whatever you're asking for, be prepared for an increase in petrol price. So stay for 70,000. But despite agreeing for 70,000, there's been that increase. So we are going to hopefully have Alex Agwanwo, the Rivers NLC chairman. He will be on here 5 to 6 p.m. on Hard Facts with Constance Mega, so you can join us then. I'll just take one more contribution before I wrap up with our guests. This one says, I carefully listened to your explanation, Mr. Carl. The federal government having a stake in Dangote refinery doesn't mean that the federal government can fix fuel price and make NNPCL to be the sole buyer. And that's Ogu Ojone Justice with that contribution. Now, comrade, let's wrap up with you here. We said, hopefully, maybe perhaps it may not. We need to start refining. What message would you have for Nigerians? What do you say? Because Nigerians, yesterday, it was kind of like official, kind of, but we had already been buying fuel for more than 800 naira. Some say we are a nation of adjusters. Nigerians will adjust to it. Nigerians are not a nation of reactionaries. What do you say?
We have to break up to the challenges ahead because the TMS increment has a full effect in the economy. It affects all the facets of our day-to-day activities. So we will break up for hard times ahead. I pray it doesn't last. If it does, we have to deal with it until we start chunking our products from this binary, we continue to have these floating prices up and down. Every month it goes up, goes down, and then the countries are succeeding again. The queues are resurfacing. But we pray. I also ask Nigerians to buckle up and enjoy the hard times ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. That's, of course, Comrade Sir George Nwoko, Pengenson Zonal Chairman, Port Harcourt Zone. Sir, thank you for joining us today on the show.
Thank you.
Okay, so of course that's that for our guests. To just quickly wrap up here on Talking Figures with some messages. This one from Pi Festus here says, "Good afternoon, Carl. The country is already enmeshed with a crooked system of what I call an organized crime system, whereby those in charge of our petroleum sector have so much enriched themselves with patrimony of the economy. God is watching them all." Udemeo Dofia says, "APC-led government is goes on to say." And they say God will deliver Nigerians from their hands. That's what he's saying. So how are you coping? How do you intend to cope? Will it be a matter of adjusting now that we now know that, look, fuel cannot be sold below 800 naira? Like our guest did mention, the actual landing cost of fuel in this country is above 800 naira. So you cannot buy for that price, that amount, and sell less. So what has been happening all this while? We heard subsidy is gone. Well, if subsidy was gone, what had been happening all this while? There was, in fact, subsidies, what they are telling us. But now, the NNPCL says they can no longer cope with the huge debt obligations. It amounts to about $6.8 billion. Can it get any worse? Well, I'll leave it at that. That's the way we're going to end Talking Figures today. I'm Carl Orakwe. I've been your host today. Hopefully, Choma Ezenwafo returns next week for the next edition. But in the meantime, it's still 92.3 Nigeria Info. Keep listening. And don't forget you can tune in and listen to us anywhere in the world. Download the Nigeria Info FM app. And, of course, click on Port Harcourt to listen to Port Harcourt. If you've been having problems listening via the app, all you have to do is go to settings, toggle the button on listen with the best quality, and you will have no further problems. For now, it's Carl Orakwe saying goodbye to enjoy the rest of your day.
God.